The third out of four here is basically healthcare and safety and personal safety. And we will get into the personal safety one in a little. We'll get into a more specific example of safety stuff in a minute. But healthcare is a massive thing that people like to talk about, and everybody has their own opinion on it, and understandably so. One of the biggest areas in which the government acts as a nanny for people is either, universal health care and, offloading the responsibility of people to take care of themselves and make their own decisions, and subsidizing products or services, and basically subsidizing products and services that are going to benefit them in a certain way. And so here's what I mean. If you do your research and you do your own independent reading, you will find that the government is basically in bed with certain types of food and drink producers. Like, basically, when it comes down to it, the government, the media, and the healthcare system, they are all in cahoots with each other, because people who, if people are eating bad foods, things that don't support them, things that are, not nutritious, that creates people who are ill, obese, and chronically sick. And they go into the healthcare system, where the healthcare system doesn't really offer them the real solution, which is, hey, you should be paying better attention to your health and making smarter choices about the food and drinks that you consume. They basically just slap a Band-Aid on it and say, look, we're just going to fix the surface level problem, but if you have to come back, that's fine. They obviously aren't going to say that, but that's effectively what it comes down to, because if all you're doing is treating the temporal issue, and you're not treating the underlying cause of someone's chronic illness or anything like that, they're just going to either get worse, or they're just going to get better for a little bit and then relapse, and the cycle repeats. And so from there, the more people are sold and proffered this idea of, you can eat whatever you want, you can have all this salty, sugary, fatty, terrible, chemical-filled, additive-filled food, and you're not having any real, whole, nutritious food and water and beverages, then it just creates this cycle where people don't have any motive to take care of themselves. Now, I'm not saying that you just tell people, you're never going to be able to take care of yourself, we might as well take care of you for you. No, that's not the case at all. The point is, there's a system in place that is robbing people of the awareness to be able to take care of themselves in the right way. People are responsible at the end of the day, and it is not hard. Believe it or not, today it's probably easier than it ever has been in human history to find healthy and nutritious foods to eat and to start to make a healthy lifestyle for yourself. And that includes exercise and sleep. Yeah, people don't want that, because you can just easily go to McDonald's or the closest fast food restaurant near you. You can pick up a burger and fries and a milkshake, and you can do that 5, 6, 7 times a week, maybe more. And it just tastes amazing, and you don't have to work for it. You're not growing it yourself. You're eating literal food products. You're not eating like food itself. So it's a very complex issue, but people have to be able to make these choices themselves. Because if they don't make these choices themselves, they will never learn how to create healthy lifestyles. If you never have the opportunity to be responsible, you will never learn responsibility. And so that's really what it's about, is learning how to be a self-governing, self-guiding person, someone who exercises your autonomy, someone who's able to take information, understand if it's useful or not useful, or harmful or beneficial, and then live out your standard of life that way. And so continuing with the idea of safety and just personal health, something that just doesn't get nearly as much attention as it should, and this comes from James Smith He's a writer for Being Libertarian. I'll link his article in the description below. He points out a great point. He says, quote, "We often see headlines like call for increasing taxes on soft drinks, yet never call for government to leave everyone alone. Why is that? Has the inclination for personal choice been totally battered out of us?" End quote. And I completely agree with that. It's basically saying if something bad happens, tell the government to tell people not to do it, or tell the government to make a law that will force people not to do it, or de-incentivize them, not to do it. And so that is just the perfect point. It goes back to what I said a minute ago. If you're taking away the opportunity that people even have to make a smart decision or a dumb decision, you're taking away their opportunity to benefit or to fail from that decision. And it creates this dependency on the government and systems of authority. It creates this pattern where people don't learn how to be autonomous, free individuals. It creates a world where people are just constantly dependent upon other people, other systems, and this just creates a world where people are not flourishing. It's the opposite of freedom. Dependency and relying on other people just constantly in every area of your life, that is the opposite of freedom. So going to another story here. This is from the Main Wire. This is all the way back in 2015. It feels like a small eternity ago. So apparently there was some kid that lit fireworks off the top of his head, and he killed himself, or he accidentally killed himself because of that. And apparently people were asking that the government step in and say, put restrictions on fireworks and make new laws such that people can't do this stuff anymore, all the while ignoring the fact that this kid literally lit fireworks off the top of his head. And I'm laughing because I just that takes a surprising level of stupidity to be able to go through with. I don't know how you can expect to not be hurt doing that, but anyways, I think anyone with half a brain would know, don't light fireworks off the top of your head. You're probably going to hurt yourself, if not kill yourself. And yet people are saying the government needs to do something about this, instead of just saying that kid made a very poor decision and it cost him his life. And it should really be the parents that raised that kid, or talking with the friends, the family, the community around that kid to see what was this kid thinking when he lit fireworks off the top of his head. And I'll link this article in the description below so you can take a look if you're interested in reading the whole story. But this seems to be more and more prevalent, not just in healthcare and food and fireworks, but really just every year, everywhere, not every year. It seems to be prevalent everywhere now. And I'm just surprised that people would rather point the finger at the government rather than point the finger at who is actually responsible for it. But honestly, at the same time, I understand why people would rather do that, because it creates an enemy outside, it creates accountability outside of yourself. No one wants to be accountable for their own actions. Personal responsibility, individual responsibility, these things are not what people crave. No one wants to be told, hey, you messed up. You should have done something different. Even though probably 90% of the time, that's what happened. Occasionally, there are things where you didn't do anything wrong, you weren't making a dumb decision, and something else just prevented you from getting the result you wanted. But honestly, 80 to 90% of the time, maybe even more, it's personal responsibility, and people are not willing to look at themselves and say, what did I do wrong? What could I have learned, and what should I do better next time? So that's the third thing.